This is our revision burst on fitness and health, which is part of B1 core science. Okay, blood pressure. Now, have a look at the picture that's appeared on the screen. This is the blood pressure monitor. This is really similar to the one that you used in class when you were measuring each other's blood pressures. Now, the blood in the arteries is under pressure, and that's because of contraction of the heart muscles. Now, the reason it needs to be under pressure is so that it can reach all the parts of the body. If it wasn't under pressure, it wouldn't actually be able to reach the ends of your toes and the ends of your fingers. So you need to know that it's under pressure because the heart muscles have contracted to cause that, and the reason for that is so that it can reach every part of your body. I've highlighted those in blue because they are lifted directly off the specification, so you really need to be fully up to speed with those two sentences. The other thing you need to be aware of is that we measure our blood pressure in millimeters of mercury. So the units for blood pressure are millimeters of mercury. Now have a look at this other image. Now that shows you one of the displays for a blood pressure monitor. And you can see there's two large numbers in the centre, 120 and 80. Those two numbers are important. So when we measure blood pressure, it consists of two readings. Both of them are important, a larger one and a smaller one. Okay, the large reading is known as the systolic pressure, and this is the pressure in the arteries when the heart muscles contract. The other number, the smaller number, the lower reading, is called the diastolic pressure, and that's the pressure in the arteries when the heart muscles relax. So you need to know the difference between those two readings. Okay, now things that can increase your blood pressure are stress, that increases your blood pressure. Being overweight also increases your blood pressure. High alcohol intake, and be careful here, don't just say alcohol or alcohol intake. You need to say that it's high alcohol intake. And then finally, smoking. Okay, so how can our diet affect blood pressure? Now it's important that you can explain how our diet affects blood pressure. So first of all, diets that are full in saturated fats can lead up to a build-up of something called cholesterol in the arteries. If you look at the image, you'll see that there's an image of an artery, and inside there's kind of a yellowy gunge that's built up on the walls and narrowed the pathway for the blood to flow through. Now there's another image over here which is a narrowed coronary artery. Now if you get this narrowing of the arteries and then you get a thrombosis as well, which is this blood clot that you can see trying to pass through the artery, that puts you at an increased risk of a heart attack. And the other thing that can affect your blood pressure is high levels of salt. High levels of salt elevate blood pressure and increase your risk of having a heart attack. Now, the other thing that increases blood pressure is smoking. And how does that increase the blood pressure? Well, this is the higher level response. The hemoglobin in the blood carries oxygen around the body. Okay, so there's structures in the blood called hemoglobin, and they're responsible for getting the oxygen around the body. Now, they combine with the carbon monoxide, and that prevents the oxygen transport. You're going to learn a lot more about that in year 11 in additional science, but that's all you need to know for now if you're doing higher. If you're doing foundation, we describe it slightly differently. We say that carbon monoxide in the smoke reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So you just need to link the idea that carbon monoxide reduces the amount of oxygen that the blood can carry around. So to compensate for that, the heart rate will increase. And then finally, one last effect that happens is that nicotine increases your heart rate as well. Okay, so we've got several points. We've got our diets full of saturated fat lead to a build-up of cholesterol. We've got the narrowed arteries and thrombosis leading to a risk of heart attack. We've got our salt levels, that's also a problem. We've got the higher level response of the hemoglobin in the blood being affected by carbon monoxide, that's for smoking. And then the foundation response, which is that the blood cannot carry as much oxygen around the body. And then finally, of course, our nicotine increases heart rate. Okay, so what can we do to decrease excuse me, to decrease the blood pressure? Well, there's two things. You can take regular exercise, that will decrease your blood pressure, and you can eat a balanced diet. Okay, don't just say healthy diet, you need to say balanced diet. Now, what are our risks of high blood pressure? You need to be able to name 3 different risks of having high blood pressure. Okay, now the first one, if your blood pressure is too high, you are at risk of a heart attack and stroke and kidney damage. Now, if your blood pressure is low, however, there's still some risks involved, and you're going to need to be able to describe these risks. So if it's too low, then you're going to get perhaps dizziness, fainting, and poor circulation. And then one that's a bit more extreme, you could even be exposing yourself to organ failure. Okay, so couple of other definitions you need to be aware of. What is fitness and what is health? Often asked as, what is the difference between fitness and health in the exam paper? So here are your definitions. Fitness is the ability to do physical activity, and health is about being free from disease. So you need to be able to quote those 2 definitions. And then finally, if we're talking about fitness, there's 6 different ways they want you to be aware of measuring fitness. There's no one easy way of saying whether someone is fit or not. There's several different ways of measuring fitness. Now, the first one is strength. Okay, so how many, what weight can you lift? Second one is stamina. So you might think of these 2 compared as can you lift a lot of weights, or can you run 25 miles? Quite different types of fitness there, and people aren't normally able to do both of them extremely well. Okay, third one, cardiovascular efficiency. That's an important one about how effective your cardiovascular system is. Flexibility, that's another level of another measure of fitness. If people who do yoga are very fit, can't necessarily run 25 miles or lift very heavy weights, but they are certainly very fit. There's speed, that's another measure of fitness. And then finally, agility, that's your last measure of fitness that they want you to be aware of. Okay, that's the end of the revision burst. There'll be a separate YouTube slide video with some questions that go with this activity. Okay, thank you.